For my informative speech, I wanted to talk about ADHD. Most ADHD behaviors are things everyone struggles with once in a while, such as losing your keys, spacing out, forgetting to turn in an assignment, but it's much more than that for people who are actually diagnosed with this disorder. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder isn't actually a deficit of attention. That's why nowadays most people prefer to call it attention hyperactive disorder, or AHD. When someone with ADHD forgets to do something, or is just having trouble focusing in class, it's because their brain is having trouble regulating their attention, or effectively shifting their attention. Sometimes people with ADHD will jump from one thing to the next really easy, or they will hyperfocus on one thing, and it'll be hard for them to pull their attention away from what they are hyper-focusing on. The ability to regulate attention is part of something called the executive function system in the brain. It's what allows you to inhibit or not act on your impulses, and ignore the distractions. In ADHD brains, the executive function develops slower than in neurotypical brains. People with ADHD also have a deficit in brain chemicals that helps them function, such as dopamine. They will know what to do, and they will have great intentions, but the executive function system isn't always developed or functioning well enough for them to effectively help them do it. Another executive function is working memory. This is our ability to temporarily hold information in our heads so we can work with it. For example, when we look at a recipe and then remember the steps while we cook, it's our brain's version of RAM. Everyone has limited capacity of working memory, but it's often more limited in those with ADHD. This is one reason why people with ADHD might blurt out an answer before they forget. Or they might ask people to repeat what they just said. One thing that many people misinterpret about ADHD is that everyone affected with ADHD is hyperactive, but that's not always the case, at least not on the outside. ADHD has 3 different interpretations, and they can change over time. Even if someone doesn't look like they have ADHD, they still might. Even if they're not bouncing around the room, their brain might be. It's often referred to as internal restlessness. All this energy can be great when people with ADHD can direct it. It often shows up as creativity, generosity, curiosity. People with ADHD tend to be corrected or teased more often than their peers, and unfortunately another aspect of ADHD is that it can make it extra painful for those people. Their brains don't just have trouble regulating their attention, they also have trouble regulating their emotions too. Sometimes people tend to see their ADHD symptoms as personal defects. It can be hurtful, and worse, they actually believe it. It takes a huge toll on their self-esteem and can lead to other conditions like anxiety and depression. ADHD looks different for everyone, and those with ADHD have other conditions as well. The best way to understand someone's ADHD is to ask them about it.